Well, I started doing talks in schools about 15 years ago, and the reason I started that was because every year 3 or 4 lovely young girls would come up having what was an unplanned pregnancy and having a baby, anywhere between the ages of 14, 15, 16, 17. And on talking to these young girls, I asked them why they hadn't, if they were going to make a choice, would they choose to have had a baby? And obviously the answer is no. And I asked them then about the kind of sexual health education they were getting in schools, and it did seem as if there was a difficulty about teachers that might be teaching geography or mathematics one minute and then talking about erections and pregnancy and crisis pregnancy and contraception, that it wasn't a comfortable marriage. So I decided that I would follow up and find out what programs are available to talk to young people about sex, sexual health, crisis pregnancy, issues of body, self-esteem and confidence issues. And I devised a programme following some good practices that I saw in other countries and also what was available in the HSE. And then I devised a class. I went further than that. I asked young people, because I was doing these classes from first year, who are very innocent in the majority of cases, and some 50 years who are also very innocent, and that's fine. And I took questions from the class in advance of going in. I asked each student to write me out 3 questions about sex, crisis pregnancy, issues of self-esteem, sexual crisis, sexual identity, all of those issues. And I said, you know, it doesn't matter if I get the same questions from everybody, because I will just collate them and see what comes out. And in the course of, obviously, as I went on each year doing these classes with students from both here in Clonmel, down in South Kilkenny, in Waterford, North Tipperary and other parts of Tipperary, I found that there was certain elements of practices that certainly weren't healthy, and my job was not to be judgmental in any way ever, but to talk about a wide range of how it is for young people as they emerge into puberty and all the crises that might affect them. So this is the basis of my talk. I go in and I talk about a sexual health school programme, and I talk about how sexual health is around in everyday life. I talk about, you know, the music that we listen to, the TV shows that we watch, how maybe celebrities behave and how that informs people. I looked at young magazines aimed at young people, and some of them were really kind of bizarre, and I suppose it reflects the age I am, but Position of the Fortnight didn't seem to sit well with me as a parent and a parent of adult children, because this first of all shows really unrealistic ideas that this is normal life, and it's not normal life. But most pregnancies occur because people don't plan them. They think sex is not going to happen. I'm not that kind of a girl, and you know, when you have a baby, it actually means sex did happen, and yeah, you weren't planning it and meant you weren't that type of girl, but you know. So anyway, I think it's very important to understand the whole process, to be able to talk to a parent or parents, or talk to a guardian, and also that if you're going to be in a relationship, it's going to involve sex, you need to think before you actually do the act and not react to the act. So the basis of my talk then covers sexually transmitted infections, some of them which are gross. If you think you've been exposed to that, I give the names of the local clinics. I advise you don't go in your uniform because it draws attention to yourself. And I also talk about the fact that there's always someone at the end of the phone you can talk to, including a person in school, including I leave my own number and I do respond to texts, but I don't keep a database of that, and I think that's important because I have another public role, and I think it's important that this is anonymous. And you know, I also know, of course, if texts come late at night, it may be a little bit mischievous, and that's fine. But I talk about issues of body issues. I talk about, you know, the whole perception of what is a perfect body, and I'm glad to say that most of the students would acknowledge that being very, very slender and being held up as an idol is not now a realistic proposal. We talk about issues of, you know, the daily shower, why you feel better after that. We talk about issues of trying to eat proper food and why breakfast is important. So it starts off with really simple things, and it goes on to how sex might, an unplanned episode of sexual intercourse might happen because raging hormones, feeling each other up, your man has an erection, she thinks she's got to do something about it, and I've news for people, erections have always happened for boys from the age of about 2 till about 92, and they're well able to deal with it themselves, not your responsibility if you don't wish to deal with it. So I think it's important as well that if they need to say no, that's fine. If they want to say yes, this is what you must do. If there's a willy going in, a condom should go on. Always, no matter which orifice, always. So that can be a little bit of fun. It's not easy to talk about safe sex for in front of young people, because most of them, when they go in and they hear my first talk, they're certainly not used to somebody that stands up where a teacher normally stands and talks to them about very frank things and shows them pictures of penises and vaginas and you know, condylomata, which are genital warts, the most commonly sexually transmitted infection. And I also talk about, you know, it can be embarrassing for some students and they just think, oh, I don't know whether to look at her or not. And it can be difficult to ask questions, which is why I do give a follow-up opportunity, or I also say I will be back in the room after this for a while, and you can talk about anything generally, or you can talk and ask me about politics, or you can ask me about, you know, some stuff I covered in the class. It can be very difficult for a student that is dealing with perhaps wondering if they're gay to actually ask a question like that in class, so it's important to give them an opportunity to do that afterwards, and that's part and parcel of what I do. I talk about the safe sex. Why do we talk about that? To talk about, to understand the risks associated with unsafe sex. And unsafe sex is any sex you have with somebody that you don't, in fact, take precautions such as using condoms. And I'm not getting paid by the condoms company, so therefore now I've started using non-branded condoms to demonstrate how to put one on, because believe it or not, we're not born knowing how to put on condoms, and they do require a little bit of skill. And even though they do stretch 3 foot and can hold I don't know how many litres of water, in fact they also can break quite easily if they're not put on correctly, and also because the erection can happen, it can be lost very quickly, and the condom can sometimes fall off and spill semen into the vagina, which may predispose to an unplanned pregnancy. That was certainly, you know, not the intention. I think it's important as well to put people at ease in relation to the talk, and we really do talk as well a lot about the peer pressure and not being afraid to say no. I do include some kind of humorous slides and cartoons and that, because it relaxes the student and you are talking to them about something that's kind of difficult but at the same time of immense benefit. So if you're not going to talk in a very frank way and you talk about the birds and the bees, and I've never been able to see the connection between the birds and the bees and actual having sex, so there. What you need to know really in sexual health is facts about sexually transmitted infections, how to get a check-up for a sexual health, protection, contraception and advice. And in relation to that, you know, you have to ask yourselves the question, and it's important for young people at this stage, is ask the question. It's okay to say no. You have to ask, are you legal? In this country, you're not legally old enough to have sex unless you're 17. That's not the reality for a lot of people. And it is the reality for a lot of people who choose to say, I'm not really ready for this, so there's no pressure. Alcohol and drugs I cover in a very mild way, because it's not my job to talk about or to come in and say you shouldn't and you can't and you shan't. You talk about the real stuff. So alcohol really and drugs do impair your judgment, and there has been elements, and I can cite many cases where people that had unremembered sex that ended in a pregnancy, of actually having a shutdown and sort of having a denial pregnancy. That would happen maybe once or twice a year in any busy maternity unit, where somebody would just say, it never happened, it's not happened to me. And you know, I think it's a lot when you have peer pressure and you think everybody else is having sex except you, or nobody has the worries that you're carrying around because you think it may have happened and it started and it was fingering and it was okay and then it wasn't okay and then it was sex and you didn't intend to have it and he did pull out, but God, I wonder, am I pregnant? And in cases like that, I advise about going and getting the morning after pill. And people would say, is that really stopping a baby happening? And absolutely not. This is just an intervention that stops a process that hasn't happened from happening. So it's, you know, it's not something that people should worry about over much. And now it is available over the counter. I think that's important. In relation to sexual orientation, it's a matter of, again, understanding yourself, accepting yourself, understanding others, and I do talk a lot about not making judgments on people that don't appear to be like you, because everybody has issues. There may be heterosexual people which are considered the norm, a term I don't really like at all. There's lesbian people, there's gay people, there's transgender, and there's bisexual. All are okay. It's not for us to judge. So in my class then I do talk about sexually transmitted infections. I'm not going to go through all of the different kinds of sexually transmitted infections, except to say that for young people that would experience pain on passing urine, stinging, abdominal pain, not feeling well, all are signs of an infection that can be entirely unrelated to sex and also are nearly a sign and symptom of every sexually transmitted infection you have. So you could be beating yourself up thinking you could have a kidney infection, also referred to as a renal infection, also referred to as a urinary tract infection, or a bladder infection or cystitis. They're all one and the same thing. They can be caused by sex, but they can happen without ever having sex. So, you know, we shouldn't make judgments on people because they may have a symptom. I talk a lot about mouth ulcers, herpes simplex and genital herpes. Herpes simplex are a symptom of, it's a virus caused by a virus which lays dormant. It can happen during the stress of exams. It can happen if you go from a cold environment to a hot country on holiday. You can get a breakout. Sexual herpes, it's a very sore condition, and it's a condition that never actually goes away, even though it may go into a sort of a hibernation. And that's important that people would know about that. Some STIs or sexually transmitted infections can go undetected, so it's really important to get tested at a clinic. About 97% of people, if they think they have some sort of infection, go to their doctors, which is fine, but going to a clinic means you can go in there, and at times when we all really want to be identified for who we are, what we stand for, when you go to a sexually transmitted infection clinic, in fact, you're anonymous. You're given a number, and you're contacted by text saying that your results are okay or they're not okay, and you need to come back. And they will ask pretty invasive questions like, who is your partner? Your partner has a sexually transmitted infection, has given it to you. Of course, if you have sex with somebody else, you give it to them, and it's a kind of a chain reaction. Look, every sexually transmitted infection, with the exception of HIV and herpes, can be sorted out with a week's antibiotics. Get over it. The local check-up services, there's clinics in Tipperary, in Waterford, in Carlow, Kilkenny and in Neenah. So there's lots and lots of clinics available for people to go to. A lot of young people won't go in their own town in case they'd meet their friend's mother, and that's perfectly fine. You know, anyway, there's different types of sexually transmitted infections. There's pubic lice, there's chlamydia, gonorrhea, bacterial vaginosis, pelvic inflammatory disease, pretty serious because it can cause, chlamydia can cause infertility for when you decide that now you'd really like a baby instead of spending all your life avoiding it. Genital warts, which is the most common sexually transmitted infection in young people. And then you can have non-specific infections such as thrush, and syphilis, scabies. Technically scabies is not a sexually transmitted infection, but you can be sure that if you have sex with somebody and you have scabies, you'll give it to them and vice versa. So, and again, that's very easily treated. And I suppose this is the time to say that if you haven't been using just your own wash gear and your own towels and stuff, 'tis time really to start and just make sure that you do your own cleaning stuff and have your own stuff and keep it just for your own use, don't share it. And the common symptoms of a sexually transmitted infection may be discharge from the penis, the vagina or the anus, pain when passing urine, and we've talked about that already, discomfort or pain in the vagina, the penis or the anus, bleeding in the urine or the poo, swollen testicles if you're a man. That usually gets a little bit of a laugh. Thanks for the audience here. Anyway, sores or growths in or around the penis, vagina or anus, rashes, itching or irritation of the vagina, penis or anus, sores, ulcers, blisters, and all that sort of thing. So again, it's fairly common. Pubic lice are wingless insects with 6 legs and square body. They look like sea crabs, which is why they're often referred to as crabs, and they cling to pubic hair, but they'll also cling to any kind of hair they meet. So don't think you're out of the woods if you see one in a beard somewhere, and that usually only happens to fellas. I'm not going to go through each and every one of the conditions because I'm going to put the slide online and you can have a look yourself, but we have one or two pretty gross pictures. But I would really advise against people using the internet as a source of information, because for some reason, if you want to look something up in relating to sexually transmitted infections, and I have been asked questions about things like snowballing, which I thought, okay, I'm really going to have difficulty answering this question. People would see, can they shock me? And really, I can't be shocked. My job here is not to judge people, and it's not to form opinions about them or the behaviour. My job here is to say there's help to be got, there's an acknowledgement that you're going through an evolving sexual time, and that you need to be very, very careful, and don't get yourself into a situation that you can't control or you're not happy about. And don't worry and don't beat yourself up if you've gotten into a way of behaving that you're not happy with. You can change that pattern by getting up this morning and saying, today is the day I change what I do. So there's no judgments in it. And you know, if you think you've been exposed because of past behaviour, or if I say something in the class that caused you to fret and you don't really want to text me about it, and you don't want to ask in class, I understand, because you don't want people making judgments. Well then, you know, you will find out the information, and I will advise you where to go on that, and I'll try and give as much rounded information as we can in the course of this class. So usually I don't talk continuously during the class. I have an opportunity for students to stop, ask me questions and engage in relation to maybe different treatments, or maybe sometimes in okayous questions about practices or behaviours, and you know, that's fine, and I offer the chance to have a question answer type session, and I give my contact details. And as I said, and I'll restate this, I don't keep a database of people that contact me. I respect that element of the job I do and delete the text, and I am the only one that reads those texts. My phone's password protected. I'm going to, before I finish the class, just demonstrate how a condom should be put on, and probably won't put it on correctly now because I'm under pressure. Be looked at. So, you have to take the condom, being careful, and I have my own willy, which can also be double up as a towel holder for when you're not using it. And this is the correct way to put on a condom. The little teat on the top should be held, and then the erect penis, the condom, is rolled down along, making sure that the teat at the top has enough room for an ejaculation to occur. If that's put on too tight, when the boy or the man ejaculates, the condom may break, and it's very important. For each episode of sexual intercourse, a fresh condom should be used. And one needs to be careful when withdrawing the penis from the vagina that if the penis has lost its direction because he has come, well then you need to be careful to make sure holding on to the base of the condom when withdrawing so as that the condom doesn't stay in the vagina and spill semen. Thanks for your attention today. If there's anything I've said that you are not happy about or you want clarification about, I am happy to answer any questions that are posed. Thanks very much.